Across the ancient world, civilizations told remarkably similar stories about how order returned after chaos. These stories did not begin with discovery or experimentation. They began with teaching. After destruction, figures appeared who already knew how civilization should function. They did not ask questions. They gave instructions. They did not search for knowledge. They delivered it. These figures appear in the earliest foundations of human history. They arrive after catastrophe, after disorder, after what many cultures described as a collapse of the previous world. They teach agriculture, architecture, law, astronomy, and ritual. And when they leave, civilization remains. In Mesopotamia, early traditions described divine instructors who brought laws and knowledge to humanity after a great flood. These beings were said to have taught people how to organize society, measure time, and construct cities. Civilization, according to these accounts, did not slowly evolve. It was restored. In Egypt, the origin of civilization was attributed to figures who introduced agriculture, geometry, writing, and sacred order. These teachers were not described as inventors experimenting with ideas. They were portrayed as bearers of complete systems. Measurement, architecture, ritual calendars, and moral codes appear suddenly in the archaeological record, already coherent, already functional. In Mesoamerica, stories speak of culture bringers who arrived after destruction and taught writing, astronomy, and social structure. These figures did not rule by force. They instructed, then withdrew. Over time, their human qualities faded, and they were remembered as gods. Across the Andes, early civilizations credited their knowledge to ancestors who survived catastrophe and re-established balance. In Asia, ancient traditions describe sages who preserved knowledge through cycles of destruction and renewal. In each case, the pattern is consistent. Civilization does not begin with ignorance. It resumes with memory. What unites these traditions is not supernatural imagery, but function. These teachers are not creators of humanity. They are restorers of order. They arrive when chaos has already occurred. Their role is not to invent civilization, but to restart it. This distinction matters. Discovery is chaotic. It involves trial, error, failure, and gradual improvement. Teaching is deliberate. It assumes prior understanding. The earliest civilizations behave like societies being instructed, not societies discovering everything for the first time. This raises a difficult question. Where did the teachers learn what they taught? If human civilization experienced global catastrophes, as geological and mythological evidence increasingly suggests, then survivors would have been few. Knowledge would have been fragile. Writing systems might not survive. Advanced tools might be impossible to reproduce. What would endure are principles, methods, and memory. Survivors carrying knowledge into a damaged world would not resemble modern scientists or engineers. They would resemble teachers, simplifying what they remembered, adapting it to new conditions, and transmitting it orally. This process explains several mysteries in ancient history. It explains why early civilizations appear suddenly sophisticated. It explains why knowledge seems to leap forward without clear developmental stages. It explains why architecture, astronomy, and agriculture emerge together, fully integrated. It also explains why this knowledge is often embedded in ritual, symbolism, and myth rather than technical explanation. Survivors would not preserve formulas. They would preserve meaning. As generations passed, the origin of this knowledge would become increasingly distant. Memory would compress. Human teachers would be elevated. Over time, reverence would replace recognition. Teachers would become ancestors. Ancestors would become gods. This transformation was not deception. It was cultural survival. In societies without durable writing, memory must be protected. Elevating teachers to divine status ensured their lessons were preserved. Myths were not falsehoods, they were memory technologies. This perspective reframes ancient mythology. Rather than evidence of primitive imagination, myth becomes evidence of historical compression. Real events reduced to symbolic narrative. Human figures transformed into timeless archetypes. The ancient world did not ask whether their teachers were human. That question did not matter. What mattered was continuity. Knowledge survived. This also explains why these teachers are often described as temporary. They arrive, instruct, then depart. Civilization does not depend on their continued presence. It depends on what they leave behind. The archaeological record supports this pattern. Early cities appear rapidly, fully organized. Writing systems emerge suddenly. Calendars align with celestial cycles with precision that implies long-term observation. Social hierarchies form immediately, not gradually. These are not the signs of societies learning from scratch. They are the signs of societies rebuilding with inherited frameworks. Critics often argue that such interpretations underestimate human ingenuity. But acknowledging inheritance does not diminish intelligence. It recognizes memory. Human beings are capable of extraordinary creativity. They are also capable of extraordinary loss. Catastrophe does not erase intelligence. It erases infrastructure. If knowledge survived through people rather than institutions, it would leave exactly the kind of evidence we see: sudden emergence, incomplete explanation, mythologized origin. The teachers of the ancient world may not have been gods, visitors, or supernatural beings. They may have been survivors, individuals or small groups who remembered enough to restart civilization in fragments. Their stories endured because they mattered. And the fact that they are remembered across cultures suggests that this process did not happen once. It happened repeatedly. Civilization may not be a single story. It may be a relay. Each age receives what remains, carries it forward, and adds to it, until catastrophe interrupts again. If this is true, then the ancient teachers were not extraordinary because they knew everything. They were extraordinary because they remembered anything at all. Subscribe to this channel for more.